Whoa, let me just take a minute or two to get here. See all of your faces and the sea of human beings. Yeah. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story. I think probably many of you know of my work and maybe have had taken trainings, but this is really about the backstory, how through my own journey, I came to the method which is now known as somatic experiencing. And so reverse about 3 years ago, because I'm at the age where, I mean, I still have a lot of like humph in me, but clearly I have less time going forward than I have looking back to where I was born, to where I started. So I started to kind of try to find the trajectory of my life. And this was done really only as an excavation, a personal, emotional excavation to really look at what shaped me, what formed me, the traumas that I had to come to, but also great wisdom that I was gifted to me in my journey. And anyhow, one of my really dear friends said, as I started writing this, she said, "You really should make this a book." And I said, "No way. It's too personal. It's too naked." And she said, "Well, I think you really could think about it." And often when I don't know where I'm going next, I'll turn to my dreams. And in the dream, I'm coming to an open field. And in both of my hands, I'm having a whole bunch of papers with that were typewritten. So obviously it was some kind of a manuscript. And I looked to the left and I looked to the right, to the left, to the right. And I felt stuck. I didn't know which way to go. And then while I was in this state of conflict, all of a sudden this wind came from behind me and took all of these pages and scattered them into this meadow. And you are that meadow now. You are my witnesses. So that was a decision to let them land where they lay, where they landed, and to know that what I did was not just for myself, but was also in some ways a guidepost for people in their own healing. And so the name of the book was An Autobiography of Trauma, a Healing Journey. And it was my journey. Oh, and there is the book. And I didn't know it. Anyhow, in writing the book, I asked myself the question, have I done enough? And I could feel my shoulders relax because the burden of getting this work out into the world was now on the shoulders of 50 international trainers, some that I have trained and others that were trained by other people who were eventually trained by me. And they were just doing really beautiful work out in the world where so much healing is necessary. I mean, just turn on the television or don't turn on the television. And I want to start with a premise. Trauma is perhaps the most avoided, ignored, belittled, denied, misunderstood, and untreated cause of human suffering. Oh, that's the book. Why? Oh, why write the book? Well, that's what I just said. Again, I was writing it for myself, and now I'm, the first time I talked to an audience about the book, I was terrified. I felt like I didn't know if I'd even be able to get the words out. But then I thought about all of the things that friends, colleagues, and others have written about the book and me. And I realized I was deeply supported in this endeavor. And so, again, I'm a little bit shaky here, but I'm doing fine. Thanks. So when a person is exposed to overwhelming stress, threat, or injury, they develop a procedural memory, a body memory. And trauma occurs when these implicit body memories are not neutralized. And the failure to restore homeostasis, balance, is the basis for the maladaptive and debilitating symptoms of trauma. I think this is from my book, In an Unspoken Voice. Yes. And, people have talked to me sometimes as being more of a mystic or a shaman. And I really needed to prove them wrong because it's not. I mean, it's something that's teachable, it's learnable, and that it's not something that just I can do, that the great majority of the people who have studied this work are able to do it and able to do it really well. Yeah. So anyhow, I began teaching this work in 1972. My awakening began actually in 1969, but I was teaching my approach to a group of SE, not SE therapists, of Berkeley therapists, and they would come to my house in Wildcat Canyon. They call it my tree house because it was way up in the trees and bamboo. And I would talk about what I was doing. I would demonstrate and then would try to find a language so that they could kind of relate to that and understand. And so that went on for quite a long time. And I also, one of the things that I discovered when people transform their trauma, that really often opens to spiritual-like experiences. The turning point for this work was in 1969. I was working with this woman who had severe panic attacks and agoraphobia to the degree that she couldn't really leave the house. Even with her husband, it was just an agonizing ordeal. And I was teaching her some exercises I had been developing, body-based exercises. And I did that. And all of a sudden, when she came in, her heartbeat was about 120 beats, 130 beats a minute. And then it quieted down. And I was thinking, oh, I must know what I'm doing. Of course, right, when you have your first clients and you happen to be lucky, it's not because you know what you're doing. It's because you were lucky. So I was feeling lucky. And anyhow, in my work with her, an image came up of a crouching tiger. And I said, Nancy, there's a tiger crouching. Run, escape, climb those rocks. And I could see that she froze even more. And I said, Nancy, I'm with you. We can do this together. And so she started to run, and I could see her whole body moving as she climbed these rocks. And she was above the rocks on a mesa. And she looked down and she saw the tiger, but she knew she wasn't afraid because she was safe enough. And then she said, I also saw the tiger faded out. And she said, I saw myself as a 4-year-old child. I was having a tonsillectomy, and the nurses and doctors held me down while they forced this ether mask on my face. And I was in complete terror. And she had been in terror for 20 years. Her body had wanted to run. Her procedural memory was incomplete. She was needing to run, to feel the power of running and to escape. But she also said one other thing. She asked me if I wanted to know what happened. And I said, yeah, that could be interesting. And she said, she described what she saw and that she couldn't run at first, but then she could run. And when she looked down, she saw the tiger and all of that. But she said, what was most important to me is that I was being held in warm, tingling waves. And at that moment, I didn't quite get it, but it was the beginning of understanding this intrinsic welded between transforming trauma and different spiritual type experiences. And actually, after this book, the book that I'm next working on is going to be called Trauma and Spirituality, because I think it's such an important link, and it makes us more empathetic, more compassionate, both to ourselves and to others. I have been blessed by having a number of teachers in my life that have taken me under their collective wings. And one of these people was a woman named Ida Rolf. You might know about her for the field that she created called Rolfing. And I was actually fortunate. I was about the only person that she allowed to call her grandma. And I did. And I did, and many times. Actually, there's one I just remembered. She can't get at me because she died a long time ago. But I was visiting her in New York, and she took me out to this Jewish delicatessen. And we were having our meal together, and she was going on and on how lucky I was that she was becoming a teacher to me. And I just nodded my head, and yes, of course, absolutely. So then we're walking out, and there's an old Jewish couple, and they look at her and they say, "Oh, you're so lucky. You have such a wonderful grandchild." So that was our relationship was like that. And she also encouraged me to work with children and infants, which I did, and actually have written a couple of books about that work. And this is another person who was also, oh, so important in my life. And her name is Mira Rothenberg. And she wrote a book called Children with Emerald Eyes. And I actually helped keep her alive by giving her other books to write. So she made it till 96. Yeah. And she works with the most disturbed and psychotic and autistic kids in a way with ferocity, with compassion and ferocity. To most of the women you do not want to mess with. And that's a side story too, but that's also in the autobiography. And this is her with her son Kiva Goldman, and he won the Academy Award for the best screenplay for A Beautiful Mind. Yes. And he honored his mother and his father in accepting that award. And I say the fruit felt very close to the tree. Yeah. Okay, a creative force. I believe absolutely without reservation that there exists in humans and probably in other species as well, a primal drive towards wholeness and health. And this includes access to part of ourselves that has always been within, that lives beyond any trauma and is eternally whole and undamaged. And we all possess this drive towards wholeness. And as therapists, we're not trying to take our clients' traumas away. We're not trying to get them to relive their traumas, which I definitely don't go for, but to rather really connect to that intrinsic part of themselves, to their true self, to the whole, which is the true self. Ah, you might know who that is. Okay, so when I was developing somatic experiencing in the late 60s, early 70s. I was also working on my doctoral dissertation on in the Department of Medical and Biological Physics. And I would go to my favorite restaurant on San Pablo Avenue called the Beggar's Banquet. And they would always welcome me and usually start by serving me a bowl of this wonderful warm soup, along with French bread that was crispy on the outside, moist and tender on the inside. I've been feeling it right now. And so I was having my meal one day, and all of a sudden there was a shadow coming from the left side, and I looked up, and there's a man in disheveled hair and a jacket that was like 3 times too big for him, and he introduced himself as Albert Einstein. What? But as a scientist and a clinician, I do know something about, oh God, what's it called? This kind of imagery that really comes from inside. Somebody help me with that. It's eidetic images, lifelike images. And I realized, of course, the science part of me, that this, of course, was an image, an inner image, but it was an inner image that provided me tremendous amount of guidance. So when I would come in, I would, ask if he wanted some soup, and so he did. And so I ordered 2 soups, and the waitress came over, and she said, "Well, why don't I serve you the other one after you finish this one later?" And I said, "No, I actually would like 2 right now." And we had these conversations, and I would ask him these questions that were unsolved in my mind and also in my heart. And he would ask me questions about my questions, the Socratic method of inquiry, really. And again, this went on for a period of time for about a year. Okay, now here's the beginning of my story. And I want to also say right now that I was able to heal these traumas, and you are also able to heal your traumas. All of that healing exists already inside of you. And this is a picture of Johnny DiGuardo. Uh, oh, thanks. And my father was forced to testify against this man. He is a Mafia don, Johnny DiGuardo, Johnny Dio. He's in the Goodfellas, the movie, and a couple of other, those movies. And he was a killer. And basically, he said to my father, if you testify, you will find your family face down in the East River. And you can see this is not a nice guy. And in order to keep my father from testifying, I was violently attacked and raped by some people from that mafia. And in somatic experience, we never go right for the trauma, but we work with bodily experiences that exist inside of ourselves that contradict those of overwhelming helplessness. And so the memory that came up was when I was 4. Four or five, in the middle of the night, my my parents came into my bedroom, and they laid tracks for a train set underneath my bed, out into the room, back down, and then under the bed again. So, I mean, you can imagine the joy I felt when I awoke. The train was going around. I knew then that I was loved, that I was cared about. And even all of the things that happened, I could handle them because of being held and cared. And all of us have had somebody at some time in our lives. If it's not a person, it could be an animal or it could be an angel. It could be someone there who cared about us. We all have that, or else we wouldn't be sitting here. So, this is a good idea. Before we proceed, I'm going to invite you to do a little exercise, and I call it the VU exercise. And it's a way, really, it does many, many, many different things, but it's a way of settling into ourselves. And I call it the VU breath. And I'll demonstrate it, and I'll invite any of you who want to also participate to do it yourselves. I'll guide you. And it usually brings feelings of relaxation or of warmth, of settling, but it could also bring up images, sometimes images that might be difficult. But the idea is to take an easy full breath, and on the exhalation, make the sound VU, vibrating it from your belly. So take an easy full breath. Ooh. Ooh. And let the come in, filling its body, filling your body on its own, belly and chest. And just being aware of sensations, feelings, images, thoughts, whatever comes up in your experience. Yeah. And here's a good example of that. Yeah. Yeah. Good. Yeah, right. You say, what? That's pretty cool. Let's go back to that exercise again. And I'm going to just suggest a sentence to say, they're my words, so they might not mean the same thing or even mean anything to you. But the idea is just to say the words, you can say them out loud to yourself and just notice what happens when you say the words. So the idea is to just say the words, I'm alive. I'm alive and I'm real. And then just notice what happens when you say those words. Yeah, I'm alive, and I'm real. And I'm here. And I'm here. And again, just notice sensations, feelings, thoughts, images, questions. To do this here. One of the things, sometimes people send me books if they want me to write something about it, or just to say it because they want to send it. And I was looking through one of the books and I saw this quote and I said, God, this is totally right. This is absolutely, I totally agree with this. And I looked and I was quoting from my book, An Unspoken Voice. But its trauma is not so much, it's not just what happened to us, but it's rather what we hold inside in the absence of that present empathetic other, to be held by that presence. And oh yes, this is my train set. Yes. And the next slide is the part of me that I reconnected to and embraced. And actually, the book ends with this picture, with this photograph. This is about 18 months old. I hold him in my heart. Yeah. Yes. What I'm going to do is kind of break things up a little bit. So we have something from this and then something else. And what I was going to do is do a little demonstration just for a few minutes with somebody who wants to come up. Hold on one thing, but not somebody who's ever worked with me or is a somatic experiencing. Okay, why don't you come up? And I think we have a chair for you somewhere. There we go. Very good. Yeah. Okay. And you are Savan. Okay. Oh, hold 1 minute. It'll just take a moment. Yeah. By the way, your job is to support the person who comes up. So they'll do very well if they have 600 people supporting them.
Thank you. Oh, thank you. I just wanted to say thank you, Peter. Your presence, this is Ariel speaking for the online community. Your presence and your willingness to show us your humanity is a tremendous gift for everybody here. Thank you.
May I say one thing before we begin?
Yes.
And I'll make it quick. You and I have had the same experience. I was 4 and there's no happenstance.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a doctor. So isn't this healing that a doctor's holding me and I can hold you? And that's why we have this resonance and I'm here. Thank you.
Okay. Well, let's just make a little exploration if you're open to that.
Can I turn to you?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, you can turn to me.
I don't want to mess up the online thing.
It's not to worry.
Okay.
They can take care of it.
Okay.
They know what they're doing.
Okay.
So
shaking.
So just take a few moments just to sense that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my foot right next to yours. Okay, come. Okay. Now stay with me, and let's do the boo exercise again. Okay.
Can I catch my breath or do it through the breath?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Losing the mic. I'm sorry. Can I have help? I'm sorry. Oh wait, with this.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, I'm so blessed for this.
Okay. So feel your hands the way they're touching each other.
Okay.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
What's your sense about this?
That I'm supporting myself because I learned from Betsy that we're tensegrity.
Sure.
And yeah.
But right now it looks like you're meeting yourself. Yeah. Something like that.
Yeah, I find myself disassociated, but feeling the hands and feeling your foot. Feeling your foot helps. That
it's
really
interesting.
helps.
When you just said that, your voice just went down.
Oh, is that
2
a good
octaves.
thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you're more
I
in
didn't
your
even know
body.
it went up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm shaking.
Well, that's okay. But easy with the breath.
Okay.
And rest. Yeah. Tell me what that 4-year-old child is like. Do you have a picture of her?
I do have a picture, but I don't want to take away time to show it. I'll show it to you. Should I show you?
No, just in your mind.
Yeah. Oh, I do. Yes.
Yeah,
I can describe her though.
Yeah.
Okay, so she was really excited, and she was too much for everybody. And
just enough
and
for
the
herself,
first-
maybe.
And her mom told her, because she wanted to be Phil Donahue, so she would leap around with a hairbrush and say, "What do you think?" And her single working mom was like, "Can we get a commercial break on the fuck?" She's like, "Can you shut the fuck up?" Like, oh, sorry.
So it's
Oh,
like
it's just
stepped
PJ.
on her creative force.
Yeah, so she muted her.
Okay,
Yeah.
so let's do this. This is just a little
And
exercise.
also after the act at 4.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So there was shaking but aloneness, right?
Okay.
So this
Okay.
is great because I'm being held this time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Where else do you feel the smile?
And the smile?
Smile. Yeah, I see it here and here.
Yeah, because I'm thinking about her. She was, I just,
Full of life.
Yeah, she was so full of life, and she still is because she's still here with me.
Stay with
Yeah,
me.
she was
Stay
still,
with me.
she's
Stay
still
with me.
here.
She's still there,
still
and
in-
that's all you have to know.
Yeah, she's
That's
here.
all you have to know.
And she's held, and she's got support.
This is an exercise I often do. You all can join me. I call it the self-hug exercise. It just really help you contain to what you're feeling, so it's less overwhelming.
Oh, it's not overwhelming. These are happy tears.
Yeah.
These are good tears.
I'm talking to them.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. It helps us contain what we feel,
Yeah.
which is important because it's not that the feelings are too strong,
Yeah.
but we don't have enough room in our bodies to
Yeah.
contain those feelings.
Yeah.
So it's great that you're doing this and feel those movements, just gently rocking back and forth, gently rocking back and forth. That's it. And how does that feel?
Oh, it feels amazing.
Yeah, it reminds me
It
of
feels
like the
so-
barley grains in the wind.
It just feels very effortless and very like natural.
Flowing.
Like
Yeah.
no effort.
Yeah.
It just is, and it just moves as we move.
Beautiful.
And
Beautiful. Great. Good. Way to go.
thank you so much for
Yeah.
this.
Oh,
Like
you're
10
welcome.
years of therapy, and I would never have gotten it if I hadn't been here.
Okay. So I'm going to take my feet away,
Oh,
okay?
yes,
Yeah, yeah.
thank you.
And then just, if
Yeah.
you want to be outside for a little bit, just
I'm
rest.
good.
Okay. Well,
That's
then
what shaking
just-
does.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Good,
thank you
absolute.
so much. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. There's another exercise that I really like. And usually this is if somebody says that nothing is ever, that they feel horrible all throughout the day, that they don't ever feel anything positive, and they're depressed or they're anxious or they're stuck, and it never changes. But that's not possible. It's absolutely not possible, because there's always some time when we were less depressed, less anxious, more like ourselves, and more like we would want ourselves to be. So I'm going to invite you, all of you, a group exercise again, to think of a time today when you felt the most like yourself, or when you felt less anxiety or less depression or less pain, or a time, even if it's the smallest amount, when you felt most like yourself or most like the self you would want yourself to be. So maybe you have an image of that in your mind's eye, and just be with that. That one time, the picture of that, sometime in the last day, when you felt even the smallest amount better, the smallest amount happier. Good. So just hang with that in your body. Just hang with that. And I want you now to think of another time, a different time in the past 2 or 3 days when you felt the best about yourself, the less pain, the less anxiety, the less depression, the time when you felt most like yourself, or most like the way you would want yourself to be, to feel. and hold that image and just go back and forth between that image, whatever it is, and whatever you're sensing in your body. Just really going inside, holding the image, going back and forth between image and body sensation. And if you notice, sometimes some of you are noticing little movements that your body is making. So feel those movements, feel those inner movements. Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Good. Maybe if we just do a little popcorn here for a minute or so, but just to say a word or so about what you're experiencing right now. And you can just do it out loud. You don't have to wait for a microphone. Grounded. Open joy. Trauma-free. Relaxed. Release. Okay. Yeah. A lot of good stuff. And again, this is an exercise that both helps the person become more body-centered, but when they come in with this, what sometimes people think, the therapists think of as resistance, but it's not. It's just they don't know where to go. And this is a way of helping them orient and connect with that inner image, that inner image. Okay. Carl Jung, one of my all-time favorites also, wrote that the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And I think all of what we're doing now is to move in that direction, to connect to that part in ourselves where we really are truly who we are. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, God, no, forget that. Oh, okay. I guess the books are there, but I think they do have some books left. Not the autobiography, but I think that's it for now. I take it one more thing about the Einstein thing, which I don't tell anybody. This. Active imagination. That's the word I was looking for. I knew when I met Einstein, this was active imagination. And active imagination is an amazing process. And supposedly, children have this, but they lose it as they become adults. I say, no, that's crazy. It's totally, totally untrue. I mean, it's equally true for kids, for children. So anyhow, I knew the scientist part of me knew that I wasn't hallucinating, even though it was Berkeley in the 70s, and that that I knew that this was an inner image, but a useful image. And so I knew I was having conversations with myself in the form of the images of the great professor. So fast forward about 25 years ago, I was visiting my parents in the Bronx. And I came back from spending the day in the museums. I walked into the apartment and I noticed in a bookshelf above where my parents were sitting, there was a book, The Special Theory, or The Theory of Relativity by Albert Einstein. And I was somewhat shocked. And I then decided to tell my mother what had happened way, way back in the past about my meetings with Einstein. And she said, and my mother injured me and injured my brothers in some heavy duty ways, but there are some ways that she was amazing, amazing. And somehow she knew in this moment, and she said, Peter, I know why this happened to you. And I said, I'm sorry, what? And she said, I know why this happened to you. She said, when we were pregnant with you, it was 8 months pregnant, your father and I were in a canoe on this lake in New Jersey, and a windsquall came and tipped over the canoe. And my parents were unable to right it, and they would have surely drowned. But in that moment of crisis, a small sailboat came along, and there was a young woman and an older man, and they pulled my parents to safety and basically saved their lives and saved my lives. And they introduced themselves to my parents as Albert Einstein and his stepdaughter. Go figure. I mean, I've been so blessed. In so many ways, really. Yeah. So, how about, so we have time. We do have some time. Yeah. So again, I'm going to invite somebody to come in and just to make an exploration of what, why don't you come up? Okay, she asked a little bit about the process of writing the book. No, it wasn't intended for an audience. And I was starting just, as I said, to write it as an exploration. But then when I realized that it wasn't mine personally anymore, that it was out there in whatever, the collective, for anyone to use. I'm going to get to it. I'm going to get to it. And I just started writing and scribbling. And I was not doing anything in a linear way, or my life has not been very linear. As my friend Ian once said, the shortest distance between 2 points is not necessarily a straight line, nor was the arc of my life. So I started in one place, just what came really to me first, and I started to write about it. And then my dear, dear friend and companion, Laura, really pushed me to write an outline. And I said, I don't know where I've started. I don't know where I'm going. So I think she said, well, I'll help you. And so that's the way the writing began. And the big part of the writing was done in Lago de Bacalar, which is in the Yucatan in southern Mexico, on this crater lake. And so we spent there about a month. And basically, I wrote the large part of the book there. And there were these two wonderful Mexican women in there, and they would always make wonderful food for me, for us. And we really felt taken care of, and being in this lake, and there was probably no one around for many miles. So, so that's really how the writing process goes. And I'm kind of curious. I started a little bit on the autobiography of the trauma and spirituality. I'm writing it with a friend of mine, a colleague of mine in Denmark near Copenhagen. And so again, it's we actually started with an outline. Give me a break. And now we're trying to fill things in. So yeah, so I'm yeah, I work in different ways. And you are
Heidi.
Heidi. Well, hi. Good to meet you.
Good to meet you. Actually, before we start, I just have something to resonate with trauma with spirituality.
Of what?
The book that you plan to write.
Okay.
I'm sure if it's okay to share.
Sure, we can start anywhere.
Yeah. I feel really great that you're writing that book. I feel there is a, like, how do you say it? The message that need to be sent out, because there is a gap between spirituality and psychotherapy. Yeah, I wrote my own capstone paper is how to integrate spirituality with psychotherapy, because
wonderful.
Sometimes it's just like I feel the tightness here. I see.
You feeling that right now?
Yeah, I feel that right now.
Let's just kind of go back from the content to the feeling. What are you noticing here in your chest?
It's that my heart is beating really fast. Is the nervousness?
Well, it's just beating. I mean, I can see it. It's going fast, but it's strong. your pulse is strong.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, just take some time just to follow sensations, feelings, thoughts, images, and just see where it goes.
Yeah. It's the a combination sense of passion
Mm,
to fill the gap,
mm.
but a fear as well.
So there's passion and fear.
Yes.
What's the fear about?
The fear about, because I'm new in this realm, right? And it's on my own journey led me to understanding spirituality and psychotherapy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's more from a experiential way of seeing the gap. But the fear of sharing that, because I guess
Okay, I
my
can relate
voice
to
is
that.
not
Right. All right. Yeah. Great. So sometimes, oftentimes, fear is about excitement that doesn't quite know where to go. So I wonder where your excitement might take you.
my excitement will take me to a new understanding of humanity, that we are truly spiritual beings living in this human body, but it comes with a lot of suffering in this human body.
It may come, yes, that's right. It often is a lot of suffering. But you know, what's it though I walk through the shadow of death, I will fear no evil because the spirituality is with me. Yeah.
Yeah. And also just from my own experience, I have, because I started off meditation and really just, I experienced what spiritual bypassing was myself.
Right.
And then
And that's to get away from the shadow part and just go to the light. Problem. But let's go back to your chest, okay? Let's really feel inside your chest. Okay, Heidi? Just take some time. Feel your hands, feel your feet on the ground. Yeah,
I feel solid and strong.
great. I'd like to do a little different exercise with you now. It's going to just take me a minute. So I'm going to bring a couple of my toys over. Whoops. Oh, here they are. Okay. Well, this one I think is mine. And here's two. You can choose a color. Okay. And let's move a little bit away from the chair. So we have some room. And just get acquainted with this a little bit. Yeah. And just notice what are they like? What is it like to hold those?
There's some weight.
Okay, so feel the weight and let the weight even bring you more into your ground, into the connection of your feet into the ground. So let's play a little bit more with this. See what happens when we move a little bit with it, okay? There we go. And I have a sound for you on the down. Ha, ha,
Ah,
ha, 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 and rest. All right, whoa. Whew. Do you feel the heat coming up? Yeah, great. Really, yeah. Well, tell me what you're noticing.
Noticing I'm here.
Say that again. I'm here.
here.
I can really see that. I mean, your eyes are just filled with energy. Yeah. So let's try that sentence. I'm alive. I'm alive and I'm real.
I'm alive and I'm real.
And that's where it's at. Okay, you don't have to say it if you don't want.
Sorry.
Yeah. So again, it seems like it wants to move a little bit again. And this time I want you I'm going to demonstrate it, to pause for a moment here and then, that's it, right into your legs.
Ah,
Ah, ah, and whoa. Whew. Powerful, huh? You are powerful.
I am powerful.
Yeah. Great. Okay. Thanks for coming out.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. I was just thinking the other day, we had a discussion. One woman was talking about psychoanalysis, and I kind of made the observation that if we look historically, things started with the couch, then they started to people sitting, and then to standing and moving. And I think if you're doing therapy and sitting in a chair for 6 hours, 7 hours, you are going to collapse. Your clients are often in collapse. So we need to bring movement into the equation. We need to bring movement into the equation. And I think that may be a next step in the evolution of psychotherapies, more dynamic. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. By the way, these are wonderful. About 7 years ago, one of my German teachers, teachers, came up to me with one of these, and she said, because I'll often do different kind of movement, she said, here, hold them. And just like you, I was feeling, the movement. And then I said, oh my gosh, what a wonderful tool. And so she came back the next day with 2 pairs of these for me to take with me. And one of my students now here imports them so they can be a little cheaper than on Amazon, but they're called Smoby or Vibra Swings. They're a useful thing. Whoa. Okay, now time for Q&A, I think. Then we'll call it a day. Okay. Yeah. Oh, right. Everybody looked like they were leaving to go someplace. Yeah. Q&A. I mean, I didn't take it personally. Questions. Well, yeah. I'm not sure I have a quick answer to that, but some of the tools that I just utilized here can be valuable. But of course, it's more complex. When the trauma occurred in that relationship and there was a rupture in the attachment, that's more difficult, and that takes considerable work to heal from that. But it's doable. It's doable. Absolutely. Okay, there are microphones on both sides there. Okay.
Hi, Peter. My question is that we hear a lot about fight or flight, freezing and fawning. What do you think about somebody who it's like their nervous system has got a hum, which is higher and faster than it was prior to the trauma? And what sort of technique would you use to work with that?
Okay. So what about the vibration?
It's kind of like the whole nervous system is going at a faster frequency than prior to the trauma.
Well, I mean, one of the things is we want to be able to, first of all, to regulate. So when there's an increase in the arousal, we want to be able to follow it through until it settles. So, I don't know exactly what you're referring to, but it sounds like this is something that's, like a lot of energy got released and it's kind of trying to find its place to go. Is that accurate?
It's a good way to put it. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So again, I think the thing is really to follow that energy and just to see where it wants to take you. The person wants it, or wants to take the person. Okay.
Thank you.
Sure.
Hi, Peter. Over here on this side. Other side. Hello. Hi, Peter. I don't know if you remember about 20 years ago. Do you remember Anna Wise at Esalen?
Oh my gosh, it was a friend of mine. Yes.
Yeah, she and I hooked you up to the mind mirror
Right.
to look at your brain waves. Did she give you feedback of what we saw?
Gosh, I don't remember. That was 35, 40 years ago.
Yeah, it's a long time.
Yeah.
So what you're talking about of sort of wakeful dreaming, that's what your brain waves showed.
Oh, interesting.
That brain waves were actually, you are awake in alpha, theta, and delta in your waking state,
Okay. Okay.
which is
Well-
really rare. I never saw anybody else's brain waves actually do that. It was beautiful. It
Wow.
touched me and it stayed with me this entire time.
Okay, I'll take your word
So,
for it.
But that was just,
She was a wonderful woman. Sadly, she passed
she was a
not
wonderful woman.
long
Yeah,
after that.
the teacher. of
Yeah,
mine for a
amazing
while.
woman.
I hope that wasn't too personal to share that out loud, but
Listen,
I mean,
compared to,
waves, it's, it's electric.
I don't think you could, yeah.
My question is more around spirituality and trauma, because my personal experience, while I've had early life trauma, a lot of my trauma has been more based around spiritual experiences
I see.
of an immediate experience, then shifting into a non-dual awareness consciousness that then would
Right.
fall into almost like a psychotic break for a couple of months of things just flooding, and then
Yeah.
a much more balanced state that then would, that
Yeah,
has continued to be more of a resource throughout my
yeah,
life.
yeah. Oh, that's great. I mean, times when we open up to these different portals,
Yeah.
it's disorienting for a while. It can be disorienting for a while. And it's important to do it in a place where you feel safe, where the person feels safe.
Yeah, well, it would happen automatically while I'd be driving my truck when I was in my
Yeah.
20s, and there was no resourcing. So in terms of like to work with the trauma around it,
Right.
I don't think real people,
Yeah.
I mean, that's been some of the biggest
Yeah.
trauma. of my
A
life,
lot of times people are asking me about the use of psychedelics
right?
because those can open those doors really quick sometimes. And I believe that they do have great promise, but there are also pitfalls and about opening the energy too quickly and not grounding it in the body.
Yeah.
So, I mean, somebody who came to Berkeley in the mid 60s, I shouldn't be the one to talk, but I'm more circumspect and about how people prepare for it, how they undergo it, and how they follow up. I think these are all, I don't say they're unanswered questions, but they're important questions.
Yeah, I would agree.
Okay,
Thank you.
sure.
Hi, over here on the other side.
Ah,
Hi. This is a little bit more of an esoteric question. It's totally okay if the answer is no. But since we were talking about spirituality, I was wondering if you have any thoughts about potential past life trauma.
If the person's belief system is that, I always work with the person's belief system. So if they believe in that, those images can come up. Sometimes I'll ask the person, okay, is that something you believe in, or is it something more that some kind of a healing image is coming up for you? So however they conceptualize it, it's fine. You always want to meet the person where they are, not where you think they should be.
Thank you.
Sure.
Hi, I'm Heather. I'm on the other side over here.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. I wanted to ask about Rolfing. Actually, you talked about Ida Rolf. I'm a Rolfer and a psychologist, and I'm curious about, I know somatic experiencing as an idea, but I don't know it as an application. I'm wondering about what you think of how to combine a lot of different types of healing arts with
Okay.
psychotherapy.
I have I think, a good answer to your question here. One of the powerful things about somatic experiencing, it is not a form of therapy. It's a body-based awareness system, but it really helps people do what they do better, to do how they do what they do. And I think if it's for Rolfing, absolutely. I know a number of Rolfers have taken the somatic experiencing training. So yeah, no, absolutely. It's again, some of these basic principles of what goes on in the living, sensing, knowing body. And with Rolfing, what's going on in the connective tissue, also very important. Okay,
Thank you so much.
sure.
Hi, Peter. This is Becky.
Hi,
Hey.
hi.
Hey, my question for you would be, in your opinion and your work and all the people you talk to and what you see in research, what do you think now is the best way to spread what we're doing here, this trauma healing through somatic modalities, ways of being as healers? What's the best way we can kind of get this out there accessible through schools or other ways? Do you have a big idea?
Yeah, I mean, any way that you can. I mean, really. I mean, it's wonderful to do it with, in schools with kids. I actually, one of the books I wrote with Maggie Klein is called Trauma Proofing Your Kids.
I have it.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I don't think I did it though. I don't think I trauma proofed them, but
also in the schools, Maggie also wrote a book by herself called something like Trauma Proofing Your Schools or something like that.
okay.
And it's really a really good book for, getting ideas of how to approach kids in schools.
Okay.
And now they're doing more. Before there was none of this, but now they're even doing some ACE evaluations in the schools to help understand kids who are having problems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in the schools, good idea, and whatever way you can.
Whatever way you can.
Whoever will listen.
If
Thank
there's
you.
if there's a door that looks like it might be ajar, knock on it and ask if they want to invite you in.
Thank you for sharing your story with vulnerability. You touched us.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
Over here on this side.
You have to go to the microphone.
Oh, no, other side.
Okay.
Hi, Dr. Levine. My name's Sarah. I'm a clinical therapist and also do research into somatic experiencing related work. So my question is about your view of time.
Of what?
Of time.
Time.
In relation to trauma. And I'll put just a little context on this so you'll understand where I'm coming from. It's ironic that your interest in, your conversations of a sort with Albert Einstein. One of the things that kind of has been a little unlocking part in how I'm thinking about this and researching this is I watched a documentary where there was information about how Einstein was conceiving of time, nonlinear, laying on top of itself in certain ways, and being able to share that with clients and then actually work out of that has been extremely helpful.
Okay.
And so I'm curious to know about what your thoughts are on kind of the impact or role of time, or if you've seen
time. Yeah, I mean, people who are highly traumatized, they really don't have a sense of time. They're unable to orient to time, and they need help in that regard. Oh, speaking of, right. That's good. That's great. I guess we're going to the book signing now, and I'm not sure where it is, but somebody will lead me there. Oh, okay. All right. Onomas.
Over here. Hi, Michelle from Vermont. I am
From Vermont?
Yes,
Huh?
I am a health and wellness coach who employs mind-body therapy. And my question is, understanding that a lot of autoimmune diseases are brought upon
Oh,
by
sure.
unresolved trauma, closer, by unresolved trauma.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you feel that people can actually, once the trauma is addressed and well addressed, that the autoimmune conditions can be reversed?
Oh, yeah, no question. But, again, when I work with people with these autoimmune conditions, well, first of all, I also made sure that they're with a immunologist, because you have to look at the medical side as well. And the other is I'll often work with somebody like who is who practices some alternative medicine, like Chinese medicine, acupuncture, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it's, one size doesn't fit all. So, but I mean, I know for sure that people have been, I don't like the word cured, but have resolved those states, and Gabor writes very well about that in, The Myth of Normal. They're usually have roots in traumatic or severe stress periods. Yeah.
And can I say one more thing about how to get it out there to the world,
Oh, sure.
this world? One of the things is volunteering, and I happen to volunteer as a mentor with incarcerated women.
Oh, wow.
And I
Good
have
for you.
found remarkable results
With
just with incarcerated women with using mind-body therapies and somatic therapies.
Oh, that's great. Good for you.
So that's a good way.
Yeah, that's great.
Dr. Levine,
I actually worked for a while at San Quentin
Sorry.
with men who had beaten their wives or murdered their wives, and that was an interesting experience. But boy, when they got it and they changed, and they deeply, deeply changed. But it can happen. Okay, so I'll see you at the watering hole.